For the very soul of nu metal, I'm putting two of the biggest bands in history in a head-to-head battle. The band that literally invented it all, and the band that took it to an insane new level. For over 20 years, people have been fighting over this in comment sections and group chats. In the late 90s, heavy music was completely changed by two bands. One came from Bakersfield, California, with a sound so tortured and raw, it was crazy. The other exploded out of Des Moines, Iowa. 9 masked guys who turned concerts into absolute chaos. One band gave us the blueprint, the other built a terrifying monument on top of it. Today, we are finally settling the score. This is Slipknot versus Korn. Okay, the late 90s were a super weird time for heavy music. Hair metal was gone, grunge was over, and the world needed a new angry soundtrack. That soundtrack was nu metal. This was a massive cultural phenomenon for anyone who felt left out. And at the center of it all were two bands who had completely different ideas of what heavy meant. Korn showed up in 1993 and basically wrote the entire playbook for nu metal with their first album. These guys were the architects. They mashed up hip-hop and funk with this sludgy, down-tuned metal that was 100% their own. They were all about vulnerability and rage, held together by their frontman, Jonathan Davis. They opened a door nobody knew was there. Then, in 1999, Slipknot didn't just kick that door open, they set it on fire and threw it into the crowd. This 9-person band took nu metal's aggression and cranked it to the max with horror movie style and insane speed. They were a total assault on your eyes and ears, and their live shows were legendary. For years, everyone has asked, who is the true king of nu metal? Is it the originators who laid the foundation for an entire genre? Or is it the innovators who pushed that foundation to its most extreme and insane limits? To answer this, we're not just comparing songs. We are dissecting everything across 4 insane rounds: the sound, the spectacle, the soul of the machine, and the legacy. By the end of this video, we will have a winner. So round 1 is the sound. To understand how insane these bands were, you have to start with the sound they made. Nu metal completely broke all the rules of heavy metal. Guitar solos were out, replaced by huge rhythmic riffs. The beats got bouncy, pulling from hip-hop, and the guitars got lower and heavier than ever before. Korn and Slipknot were both in this new world, but their sounds were completely different. First, you have to give Korn all the credit. These guys created the sound of nu metal. Their innovation started with their guitars. Monkey and Head were some of the first people to use Ibanez 7-string guitars. That extra low string was the key to their sound, letting them create riffs that were super deep and unsettling. They tuned down even lower, creating this claustrophobic sonic sludge. But it wasn't just the guitars. Fieldy's bass playing was revolutionary. He played his 5-string bass like a drum, slapping the strings to get this clacky tone that became the most copied sound in the genre. It was pure rhythmic violence, paired with David Silveria's drums, which mixed heavy rock with a hip-hop bounce. Korn's rhythm section was an absolute powerhouse of groove. They created the bounce riff, and it was insane. And then you had Jonathan Davis. This guy was unlike any other singer in metal. He would go from a pained whisper to a massive roar in a second. He brought this super real, unfiltered suffering to the music that was insane to listen to. And of course, he would just start scatting, making these crazy rhythmic noises that were pure emotion. It was weird, but it was 100% unique. And sometimes he'd pull out bagpipes. All of this was captured by producer Ross Robinson, the godfather of nu metal. This guy didn't polish anything. He pushed artists to their absolute breaking point to capture real emotion. On Korn's first album, this created a landmark record. It sounded like nothing else. Songs like Blind and Clown and Faggot became anthems for every outcast. It was the blueprint for everything that came after. If Korn wrote the book on nu metal, though, Slipknot lit it on fire. When the first album dropped in 1999, it was also produced by Ross Robinson, and it was a massive escalation of everything. While Korn's sound was built on groove, Slipknot's was built on pure, insane chaos. The biggest difference was the 9 members. This was not a gimmick. It was their entire sound. On top of the band, you had another percussionist, a DJ, and a sampler. This percussion army of Clown and Chris Fenn would beat on beer kegs, adding this industrial, clanging chaos on top of Joey Jordison's already insane drumming. Joey Jordison was a completely different animal. He brought the blistering speed and blast beats of death metal into the mainstream. The guy was a machine. The guitarists, Mick Thompson and Jim Root, also pushed things to the limit. They used the same low tunings as Korn, but their riffs were way faster and more aggressive, leaning into thrash and death metal. The bounce was still there, but it was a violent, convulsive bounce that gave you whiplash. On top of all of that, you had DJ Sid Wilson scratching like a maniac and sampler Craig Jones weaving in creepy horror movie samples that made the music feel like a thriller movie. And at the center of this 9-man hurricane was Corey Taylor. This dude was a vocal chameleon. He had this massive melodic voice for big choruses like in Wait and Bleed, but could also unleash these guttural screams that were straight up death metal. When you put it all together, you get a sound that was way more than just nu metal. It was a crazy fusion of nu metal, groove metal, industrial, and death metal. They took Korn's angst, got rid of the vulnerability, and replaced it with pure, undiluted rage. Their next album, Iowa, was one of the most abrasive albums to ever be successful. They weren't just another nu metal band. They were Slipknot. Round 2 is the spectacle. So I should say an album is only half the battle. The real test is the live show. And for both Korn and Slipknot, the stage was where they became legends. This was where all the pain and chaos in the music became 100% real. But they had completely different approaches. One was a raw, emotional release. The other was a full-blown horror show. Korn's stage presence was raw and immediate. In the early days, there were no masks, no props, no fire. It was all about the 5 guys on stage and the insane emotional energy they were unleashing. They wore baggy Adidas tracksuits and just looked like the kids in the mosh pit, which was why people really loved them. The focus was 100% on Jonathan Davis. On stage, this guy was a shaman. He would convulse and twitch, headbanging so hard his dreadlocks were a blur. He wasn't just singing the songs, he was reliving them every single night. The connection he had with the crowd was unbelievable. When he came out with bagpipes for Chutes and Ladders, it was powerful because it was real. Their legendary performance at Woodstock 99 is the perfect example. They commanded a sea of people with nothing but the sheer emotional weight of their music. If a Korn show was intense therapy, a Slipknot show would be like shock therapy. The Slipknot live experience is legendary. It was designed to be a total sensory overload. You didn't just go to a Slipknot show, you survived it. And it all started with their iconic masks and jumpsuits. Each of the 9 members had a unique, terrifying mask. This instantly made them a unified, monstrous machine. The masks became just as iconic as the music itself. On stage, this visual horror was matched by a level of physical intensity that was genuinely dangerous. The stage was their battlefield. Sid Wilson, the DJ, was famous for jumping off of massive speaker stacks into the crowd. Clown would stalk the stage with a baseball bat, beating a metal keg, creating this insane racket. The chaos wasn't always just on stage though. There are crazy stories of them fighting each other, setting each other on fire, just pure destruction. The famous Spit It Out jump, where Corey Taylor gets the entire audience to crouch down and then jump up at the same time, is the perfect symbol of their power. Their run on the second stage at Ozfest in 1999 is what made them superstars. Everyone was talking about the insane 9-man army in masks putting on the most violent and thrilling show of the entire festival. It was pure sensory overload. Ultimately, Korn connected with their audience through raw emotional vulnerability. Slipknot, however, connected through shared aggression and creating a larger-than-life spectacle for their fans. As they're called, the Maggots. One was a raw nerve, the other was a clenched fist. Speaking of those legendary live shows, I need your help though this time. For Korn, it was the raw energy of Woodstock 99. For Slipknot, it was the insane chaos of Ozfest. The fan bases for both are incredibly passionate. So, in the comments below, I want you to tell me who had the wildest early shows. Spam the comments with your vote and tell me the craziest story you have. I'm reading all of them and I'll comment on all of them. So round 3, we're heading to the soul of the machine. So a heavy band is more than just riffs and a stage show. What made Korn and Slipknot legends was how they connected with people. They screamed about real-life pain and anger, but the souls of their machines were powered by different things. Korn ran on trauma. Slipknot ran on pure anger. Korn's lyrics were absolutely groundbreaking. Before them, metal was about being mad at society or war. Korn turned inward, exploring personal suffering with crazy honesty. Jonathan Davis's lyrics were basically his diary, talking about childhood trauma and bullying. He wasn't playing a character. He was putting his actual pain out there for the world to see. Their first album is a raw document of this. Faggot is about the bullying he went through. Clown is about being rejected. But the most insane example is the last song, Daddy. The song is about his childhood trauma and ends with him literally breaking down and sobbing in the studio for 4 minutes. Ross Robinson kept the tape rolling, capturing one of the most disturbing moments ever recorded. It's a song most people say they can only listen to once. This honesty connected with so many young people who felt alone. Korn's music was a sanctuary. The message was simple: you are not alone. For thousands of fans, Korn was a lifeline. If Korn's lyrics were a cry for help, Slipknot's lyrics were the sound of breaking down the door with a battering ram. Their themes were also about negative emotions, but they turned them into a weapon. Slipknot's lyrics are all about anger, disgust, and alienation. Corey Taylor also drew from personal struggles, but he sounded less like a victim and more like a cornered animal fighting back. From their very first album, Slipknot had this us against the world mentality. Surfacing is the ultimate example with its insane chorus. F it all. F this world. F everything that you stand for. Don't belong. Don't exist. Don't give a. Don't ever judge me. It's a primal scream of rejection. Other tracks like Eyeless and Spit It Out are just pure rage. On their second album, Iowa, this anger was turned up to an almost unbearable level. The track People Equals Sh is a brutally blunt statement. This extremity was a gateway for tons of young fans into even heavier death metal. What made this so huge was the pure energy though. A Slipknot song is a way to release your anger. Listening to Slipknot is a way for fans to channel all that frustration into one massive, powerful release. So basically both bands were a type of therapy. Korn gave you a space for shared sadness. Their impact was personal. Slipknot gave you an arsenal. They took your pain and sharpened it into a weapon. Their impact was explosive and empowering. Heading into round 4, we've got the legacy, the enduring influence. So how does a band last forever? It's not just about being popular. It's about how much they influence everything that comes after them. The legacies of Korn and Slipknot are two massive pillars holding up all of modern heavy music. Both had insane commercial success, both influenced countless bands, and both are still gigantic today. Korn's legacy starts with them being the architects. You cannot overstate how much they influenced nu metal. In the late 90s, it felt like every new heavy band really was using their blueprint. 7-string guitars, groovy riffs, and hip-hop beats. It was like the recipe for nu metal. But their influence goes even further than that. Their breakdowns became a core part of what metalcore and deathcore in the 2000s. You could see their DNA everywhere. Commercially, Korn's success was unbelievable. Their albums Follow the Leader and Issues both debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. Freak on a Leash and its crazy music video brought nu metal to the entire world. They have sold over 40 million albums worldwide and won 2 Grammys. Today they are still headlining massive festivals. Slipknot's legacy is all about escalation and inspiration. They took nu metal's aggression, cranked it up, and built a bridge for mainstream fans to get into extreme metal. Their use of blast beats and death metal vocals showed a huge audience sounds they would never have heard otherwise. And this had a huge impact on bands like Lamb of God and the entire deathcore movement. Their masks and live shows also created a new standard for what a metal show could be. Commercially, Slipknot's rise was just as massive. Their debut album went double platinum, which is insane for a record that aggressive. Iowa debuted at #3, and All Hope Is Gone hit #1. To date, they have sold over 30 million records and won a Grammy. They remain one of the biggest ticket-selling bands in all of metal, even with lineup changes and the tragic losses of Paul Gray and Joey Jordison. Slipknot has survived, and fans are hyped for their rumored experimental album Look Outside Your Window, which might even drop this year in 2025. Both bands have a legacy of being 100% authentic. They outlasted all the haters and are still making amazing music long after nu metal faded. Their longevity is the ultimate proof that music born from real pain and real rage lasts forever. Alright, so after all of that, what's the verdict? Who is the undisputed king, Slipknot or Korn? We've looked at their sound, their stage show, their soul, and their legacy. The truth is, Picking one completely ignores how huge both of them are. The answer depends on what you think is more important. Korn's case is simple. They are the originators. They are patient zero. They created the sound, the look, and a new lyrical vulnerability that gave a voice to an entire generation. To choose Korn is to choose the architects. They are the soul of nu metal, so to speak. Raw, introspective, and real. Slipknot's case is one of pure, overwhelming force. They took the blueprint and built a fire-breathing cathedral of chaos. They pushed aggression in mainstream metal to its absolute limit. Their live shows are dangerous and legendary. To choose Slipknot is to choose the ultimate warriors of the genre. They are the rage of nu metal, explosive, defiant, and cathartic. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is a split decision. Asking if Korn or Slipknot is better is like asking if a surgeon's scalpel is better than a soldier's rifle, really. They're both for extreme situations, but they do completely different things. Korn is the scalpel, cutting into the heart of trauma. Slipknot is the rifle, a weapon of overwhelming force fighting back against the world. The real winner is you guys, the fans, who got two of the most powerful and authentic bands ever. But now the final verdict is yours. I've given you all the evidence for both of these absolute titans. So now it's your turn. In the comments below, I want you to tell me who is the undisputed king of nu metal. Is it the raw emotional power of Korn, or is it the nine-headed, chaotic force of Slipknot? Cast your vote, defend your champion, and let's finally settle this. Go!